Well, hey, everyone, guests of the Exhibition Podcast. Today, we're very excited to have a couple of guests. We don't often get to have a pair of guests, but Ron, we're sitting here, we're looking across from Tyrell Smith and Amanda Antifaev. So do you have anything to say before we welcome them onto the podcast?
Well, I'll just clarify this right at the start. I think they're a couple, not a pair.
All right.
I think that's what we've got over here.
Well, two young trainers from here in Western Canada, been a part of the NRHA reining community for as long as we've been involved. So Amanda and Tyrell, thank you for joining us here in the studio on the Exhibition Podcast today.
Of course,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, hey, so many things to talk about. Like what we often like to do is go back to the youth. And as young as you are, there's a story of how you became reiners. And so I don't know, who wants to go first? Who can tell us sort of where it all began?
Well, how about start with the youngest youth?
What?
I don't know. Well, they both started in youth.
Yeah,
Okay.
She started before me.
Okay.
All right. Well, there.
Yeah, she was started showing.
Were you asking who's younger, Ron? Is that what I was picking
No,
up
it's
there?
kind of I knew the answer to the question I asked,
Okay.
and I knew that she'd go first, so it's like a ladies first thing.
Wonderful. Amanda, talk to us about your start in reining.
Well, first of all, I started out jumping. My mom put me in jumping lessons, and she had reiners all along. And after I learned to ride a little bit, where she didn't have to coach me, then I started riding with Wayne Latimer, and she put me on her reining horse one time. I don't even know how old I was, 5 or 6 maybe, and never went back. I spun her horse, and that was it.
Ron, she was jumping before she was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
You could do that.
So you were doing the English disciplines before you were 5 or 6, before school.
Yeah, she put me in lessons at Teesdale down south of Calgary.
Oh yeah.
And rode an old 30-year-old jumping horse named Billy. And
So were you in Calgary at the time and then just riding south of Calgary?
yeah, we were just Pritis area,
Yeah.
kind of DeWinton, Pritis area. We moved around there while I was young. So
Yeah, I love that area.
Yeah.
My wife was born and raised in Pritis before she moved into...
very nice.
The first time I drove there, I was like, hey, they snuck a piece of BC into Alberta. Like, this is great. Of course, I'm being BC boy. But
Pretty unique geography down there, but a great place. So really, your mom's more or less still in that area, not far from there.
Not far. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
of course, for anyone who's listening, watching, who doesn't know, of course, Luann is your mom. And so we all know Luann as an incredible non-pro rider. So you're saying that she was reining while she tried you on the jumping, but then you're like, okay, let's try this reining horse, and you loved it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wanted me to start with the English to get kind of the background and the balance and everything. And my English riding instructor always gave me trouble because I would always be dropping the horses loose, and they're like, pull on your horse's face. And I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible I've gotten the pleasure of seeing some of the trainers, young kids starting and jumping on horses, or from that age, not jumping on the horses, but riding, getting on.
Yeah, you're on the jumping.
To the horse and riding at that young age. But I don't, I'm trying to remember, because we were 2009 when we did our first Spring Classic show. So can you do the math and figure out, if you don't mind sharing, like how old you would have been in 2009?
Well,
2009. Well, we graduated 2006.
Yeah.
So I was 18 when I graduated at that time.
Yeah.
We were
So-
like 20.
Just in the start of the 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And were you riding in 2009, Tyrell, at that point in time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not. I wasn't here at that time.
Okay.
I was living in the States at that time.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. And so then when did you come back to Canada from the States?
I was down there for 2008 and 2009, so it'd been like 2010.
Then
I
in
was back.
2010. Yeah. Excellent. Huh. Well, so we heard about how sort of Amanda got her start, and what was your start to reining?
Well, my parents, my mom rode barrel horses and always had horses her whole life, and my dad, horse trainer as well. But he started out doing more of the colt starting thing, and then he found reining, got into reining, and that's what got me interested in it. I guess I was about 12 the first time I showed. So yeah, it was just through my family, just through that connection, them being horse trainers, and I needed something to do. And they got me a horse when before I was 12. They got me a reining horse, and then I practiced, and they said, well, if you're riding good enough, then you can go show. and my first horse show was in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Okay.
What we were just talking about.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
so-
the fall show or
yeah, the fall show.
you were
It
at
was- it was-
for
it was
the
fall show,
reigning
yeah.
the stakes and futurity at
that
in
was my
Moose Jaw,
first.
the Golden Nugget Arena.
Yeah, the Golden Nugget, Golden Mile.
Golden Mile.
Golden Mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Golden Nugget is the Arches, I think. But yeah, it's the Golden Mile Arena.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so you guys are both lifers on the backs of horses, and did I hear you say then? So we graduated. Did you graduate not from the same high school, but just in the same year?
Same year.
Yeah.
Same year. Yeah.
I'm born in March and she's born in May. So that's,
Wow, that is tight. Yeah. Yeah. So you are much older. and
Yeah.
You know, much.
Wiser.
Oh, yeah,
Wiser.
yeah.
Is that?
I don't know.
Some
I
days?
don't know
Any
about
day?
that. Depends.
Well, you showed primarily as a non-pro from youth, like through the youth. You showed all through youth. And Tyrell, did you show all through your youth years,
Yeah. Well, my
like
first,
from 12?
Yeah. My first show, what was it? The ranch. It was the ranch reining at that time. That's what they had that
Yes.
class, the ranch reining.
Yes.
So that was for beginners and everything. And at that time, like not knocking anything, but the youth class was quite. Well, she was in it, and a lot of others that were quite. It was quite tough. It
Yeah.
was-
Yes.
And it had actually harder patterns at that time. I don't know. I know that's weird and it sounds crazy,
Yeah.
but the ranch training was like I think it was pattern 5 or something.
Yeah.
So that's what we entered.
With optional lead changes.
Yes. Yeah.
With optional lead changes
Yeah.
or no lead changes.
Yeah.
So depending on where you went.
Yeah. Yeah.
Club rules type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So.
But you're right, and no discredit.
No,
buddy.
no, I'm not
We're
taking
not
away
going to
from
hold that
anything,
against
but
you. But it wasn't. You're right. There was a lot of youth that were very talented. Same
Yeah.
thing we have today,
Yeah.
Dave.
there's
You know,
some
like you watch the youth class, and a lot of the non-pros go, "Oh my God, I hope they don't start entering the open non-pros." Like I don't want to have to compete against these youth. Well, the same thing. So as an introductory reiner, a guy that starts out as late as 12 years old, like you did.
Well, yeah, fair enough. But that's what we started with. We went in it was the ranch reining class, and
Yeah.
yeah, it went well. So.
It's so funny though that you make the comment about those patterns being harder because I don't know what the patterns looked like back then, but of course, Dave being stupid and doing all kinds of stupid things when it comes to horse show production. The very first time I helped pick patterns, yeah, you were involved in that, but I was like, oh geez, I never see this pattern B for the youth. Like, well, let's instead of it being A all the time, let's make it pattern B, and then. I can't remember who it was. I feel like it might have been Wendy Nelson, but one of the trainers came over and then said, Dave, like, please never. No, I think it was Deb Deuce. She was like, Dave, please never pick this again. And now that I understand the patterns better and I see that one, I'm like, who does this? Yeah. Like, there are greens and rookie riders, even some non-pros. I don't know, maybe some open riders that have a hard time wrapping their brain around that youth pattern B. So, same back in the day.
Yeah, well, it was divided up a little bit different back then. Like the youth, we didn't have the 10 and under and the short stirrup and all those, and those are newer patterns, I guess.
Yeah.
So we just had to run the same ones, regular patterns. But a lot of times for the youth, for whatever reason, they'd pick something like pattern 1 or pattern 7, something where you had to run up and down the center.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. I mean, maybe I was ready for it. I don't know. I didn't feel like I was ready for it. I was nervous anyway, so I didn't really want to do that.
No.
So we started a little easier. Or not easy, but easier, I guess.
It's interesting how the use of the patterns has changed over decades.
Yeah.
5 years, 10 years, 15 years. The use of the patterns, like a run-in pattern.
Yeah.
Very few run-in patterns. Like you said, they would use them for the youth and or that, but they weren't often utilized. 5 and 8 got the hell beat out of them.
Yeah.
But till we were tired of them.
I don't know that 8 still gets its
Oh yeah,
share pattern
oh yeah,
eights.
yeah. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So Amanda, did you ever work down in the U.S.?
No, I pretty much always just worked for Wayne.
Yeah.
And then we'd maybe go down and ride with Dean or Dwayne, and we still, Tyrell and I will still do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a logical connection there. And obviously, you think about young trainers that do cross the border. I mean, working with Wayne is obviously very much on par with the lessons that you may have garnered and down
Well,
south.
there was a thread of Wayne Latimer in your background as well, was there not, Tyrell? Is that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. Not to get long-winded and tell. I guess I might as well.
No,
tell
it's
the
just
story.
this is
I
podcast
guess that's the
format.
point,
It's great.
right? So yeah, like originally my parents lived up Spring Point by where Wayne lives. They had a ranch there originally, and that's kind of the connection. Is Wayne lived down the road, and more to that connection there. Wayne, the place that he's on, it was actually built by my grandparents.
Oh, no kidding.
His training facility that Amanda worked out of, and
Wow.
worked with him, I should say. And we would go there and ride. My dad would go, at that time when we lived on the ranch, he'd go down there and ride with Wayne a lot, get help. And then when we sold and moved away from the ranch, moved to the place we're at now, my parents' training facility, my dad would still travel up there and ride with Wayne. And through that, then I guess I should back up a little bit. But anyway, yeah, that facility my grandparents built,
Yep.
and then Wayne bought it later, trained out of there, what have you. And yeah, and then through Wayne, then met Dean. Dean would come up again. Another story back to Moose Jaw. He started doing clinics, reining clinics in Moose Jaw. And when I was a youth and younger, I would. My parents put me in some of those clinics. That's how I met Dean. Got to know him through that. Yeah, and then at one of his clinics, he said, "When you're old enough, if you feel like it's something you want to pursue, maybe give me a call and we'll figure something out." And then that time came, and he actually called me. And then, so then I went down to.
So that was your 2 years in 2008 and 2009.
Yeah, that was
you were
with
down
Dean,
at Dean's place.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I worked for Dean at what they call now the Old Loomis Ranch. Mr. Loomis has since built a newer place, but we were there. Dean rented stalls there, and then I lived just down the road. It's all kind of a family connection in a way. It was Dwayne, his brother, Dwayne Latimer's brother, lived down the road, and he had a place, and I needed a place to live, so I got to live in the bunkhouse there and then drive to work. And
Man,
it was a good experience. It was all.
That is.
It was good.
Even just osmosis, being on site, you'd pick up a lot. Wow.
It was a good crew to be.
Yeah.
It was a good crew, and so some tremendous heritage Loomises.
Yeah.
That's iconic. And one of the legends of reining was Bob Loomis, and as he just like you say, just as you say, osmotically, just being there in the
Osmotically, that's not the word I used, Ron. I didn't know that was a word. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a word.
Osmotically. Oh, wow. I love it when Ron teaches me words.
Later on,
He's
I'm going
so
to tell you.
I believed him.
Later on, I'm going to teach you about defenestration. But for right now, we'll just move on.
I feel like osmotically, I should have picked that word up from you, but I haven't. I don't know. It doesn't.
Yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I doubt if I am.
And I won't correct you if you are.
Yeah.
It's a word. If it wasn't a word, it is now.
It is now. We're using it.
So, you go ahead, Ron.
No, I was just like following that along. Then you came back to Canada.
Yes.
I remember, we were on your non-pro status.
Yeah.
And I can recall NRHA had the opportunity, if you were a non-pro and you were considering becoming a pro trainer, you had the opportunity to relinquish your non-pro card and go on a test for a year. Is that correct?
Yep,
And did you not take advantage of that?
I did. Yeah, for 1 year. And then, of course, decided to stay with it. But it's a good program just in case someone doesn't really want to be a trainer, and then they don't have to wait the 3 to 5 years.
Right, yeah. It's so that is a very unique thing. It's the only discipline that I'm aware of. Are you familiar? This is a very unique deal, David. You can understand how it works. You notify the NRHA that you want to be a trainer. You want to relinquish your card for a year, and now the field is wide open. You can do whatever you want, but at the end of the year, you have to make a declaration about which way you're going to go. And of course, fortunately for the reining industry, you said, "No, I'm going to be a trainer." Yeah. You were not very old at that time.
No, 18.
Yeah.
18 or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Filling in blanks, it's kind of coming back. Luann, your mom, was very much in favor of further education.
Oh, yes, very much so.
How do you know and remember this?
I can remember talking to this young lady right about the time that you were going to make this decision, and you heard possibly you were working for a retailer, and I might guess maybe at Okotoks at the mill store.
The mill store, yep.
How's that?
Yep.
Well, I'm see.
Never wrong. Never wrong.
you were working at the mill store, maybe part-time or whatever. You were on the verge or close to making the declaration that you want to be a trainer. And I had a conversation. I can remember it was a 10-minute conversation. I was interested in what you were going to do. And I remember you were very, very serious. You looked at me and you said, well, I have an opportunity. I can turn in my non-pro and take that advantage in the NRHA. And you said, I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And she said, regardless of what my mom says.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was quite a transformational choice.
Yes. Well, I worked for her for a while in her business, selling wholesale, like pots and furniture and whatnot, and went to trade shows and whatnot with her. And it was fine, but I didn't love it. And then worked at the mill store part-time and decided I just wanted to train horses instead. Horses were easier than people, maybe. I don't know.
Well, and you got into a zone with such a knowledgeable man.
Yes.
And such a, for somebody who you were passionate about being a horse trainer, you wanted to do that, you were the same, Tyrell. Wayne epitomizes that. I mean, there is only one thing in his world.
Yeah.
And that's dedication to learning all about the horse on the ground, in the stall, and on top.
Yeah.
So great background.
Yes, it was a great opportunity. No better.
So I'm guessing, from that time of being 18, and then that's obviously 3 years, I think, if I'm doing the math correctly, as far as where you figured out the age before we were even doing that video. But when did you guys start going down to the futurities in Oklahoma or any of those other big shows in the U.S.? Because, did that start at that young age where you already had, competition horses ready to go down there or?
Yeah, I went down the year before as a non-pro still, so I did actually show in the futurity one time as a non-pro, and then right after that went open. And then I think even the year right after we went back every other year or something.
Yeah.
I was pretty fortunate. Some of the horses that I started with in the apprentice program, we took down south and had a 3-year-old at the same time and worked out good.
Yeah. When I look at your lifetime earnings, Amanda, there's a pretty nice number there. You've racked up some earnings, and I'm thinking most often when I see that from Canadian riders, it's because they've had success at some of the bigger shows down in the U.S. So did you have some success at the Futurity or some other big shows south of the border?
Yeah, I have done well at the affiliate with Lakota Chick and Mambo's Whiz and some of those studs that helped bring me along there. And then made the Futurity finals in, I think, the level 1 and the 2 with a mare not too long after that. So that did help for sure.
Yeah. And then you've been going back now kind of post-COVID. Are you guys thinking that that's a part of your plan every other year or just based on horsepower? What does that look like for you guys now?
Well, we'd love to go back every year, or every other year type thing, but it's really based on horsepower.
Yeah.
Don't want to waste anybody's money. You got to be, honest and fair with everybody. Just going for the sake of going and having somebody flip the bill is not what we want to do. We want to be competitive. Fair. It's good experience anyway. If those people want to go, that's great. But we'd like to be competitive or give ourselves a shot or our people a shot to, the owners, I should say.
Yeah.
We want to keep going. It's just going to depend on horsepower.
Shiny integrity.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well,
I mean, integrity and your customer base.
Yeah, we want to do well for them.
Was it 2 years ago that you and Major Durango had such success at the affiliate finals?
Is it 2? Yeah, 2 years.
It is now,
It is
technically,
now.
yeah.
I'm saying 2 years now because it wasn't that the last affiliate was the one just. So it'd be 2023 affiliate final championship, Major Durango.
Yeah.
And you were so, I don't know, that was an exciting thing for both you and the owner of the horse, for Gail.
Gail Gatto.
Yeah.
She's.
That was such an exciting thing.
Yeah.
But you'd persevered with that horse. You'd get him this close. Am I right?
Yeah.
I sit and I watch the development of Horse and Rider, and I see that horse this close, maybe today on the pattern, he's this close from that 73 and a half.
Yeah,
and then the next time he's second.
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when that happened for you back here in Canada, you'll be pleased to know I was excited about that.
I'm glad. Thank you.
I was excited about that. You were co-champ. Excuse me.
He is excited. Ron, settle down here.
Gee, I wonder if I swallowed my tongue. We could hope.
You didn't bite it. I know that.
Co-champions in the limited open.
Yep.
Yeah. So he came to the party.
He did.
Everybody. Well, both of you did on the same day.
Yeah. No, it was good. He showed up. It was I don't know what the best way to put it. A collaboration of a lot of things, like good team, a lot of help. Got a lot of help from Amanda down there, just preparing, just getting she got my mind ready probably more than anything. And in the past, you had said a couple things to my dad about the horse and me, kind of what you just said now about us getting close. And sometimes I get a little amped up and we just miss the bar. Sometimes he get a little amped up. And then, so I actually, you don't know it, but I actually took that to heart and thought about that. And then Amanda, she kind of helped me smooth that all out. And yeah, she helped me get ready, and we had good warm-ups and got prepped, and the whole team was good. Bob and Gail were there, which was great. Yeah. And he was good. Yeah, he just showed up that day, and we had our.
Well, those things are. I think you've touched on something there it's so important as both of you as trainers, and that it's going to prompt me with a bunch of questions. But getting your head right is as important as getting your horse right.
It is, yeah.
You've got to have. You can't be overconfident. You can't ignore little things, but you can't carry baggage in with you.
That's right.
You've just got to go compete, and you loaded a horse and left Canada.
Yep.
2.5 days later, you got the same horse.
You hope.
You hope. You hope. And if you don't, you got to wait until he comes home.
Yeah.
You got to wait till he joins you. Maybe it took him 3 days to get there, and you're there in 2.5. So you're riding around in an extra half day, and that horse is just not with you. But those are you're both, now you're training. Now you used a great word there. Did you guys hear him use collaborate? Good one, buddy. So the two of you are
I know that
training
word.
out of, exactly. You do. Very well. The two of you are training out of the same facility, out of your folks' facility in Fort McLeod.
Yep.
Which we all know it's a great little southern Alberta town. And here's two of you individually training different clients' horses, same clients, cross motor. When you ride together, is there a lead hand and somebody else, or if you're having trouble with a horse, do you lean on one another? Is there an exchange?
Oh yeah, we're always talking and
Yeah,
wondering what the best course of action is and how that looked.
Yep,
We're
right.
Always,
Yes.
No, and
helps.
I think our system works pretty good because, there's more of us than three, but there's my dad's there, Amanda's there, and myself, and the three of us. We're all very similar, but we all have different opinions, different styles, and we can talk to each other, ask each other how it looks, like Amanda said. Switch horses for a minute or two and just say what would you do, or try this. And I think it's a unique opportunity that not every trainer gets. Sometimes you get stuck by yourself, which is fine. It's nice to have another set of eyes and people that are gonna tell you the truth.
The truth.
They're gonna
Yes.
tell you pretty hard.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we were chatting about this, Ron, because our previous guest, Casey O'Rourke, having just won the level 4 futurity, and then she was talking about all the roles that her husband, Jack Daniels, plays in there, and then that partnership, that unique two professionals in the same barn working together. And Shelby Mitchell had joined in the podcast there, and I could just kind of see, her eyes lighting up, like that level of teamwork that you can have. It's very unique, and you guys are living that, and so it's awesome, and it's great to hear more about that.
I think that you touched on a thing that we can all fall into if we're individual trainers. If we're at home without a good set of eyes watching us, we can develop little habits. Now, we know that our particular, let's pick a maneuver, we know that it's not quite right. And you ride 6 horses in a row, and it's not quite right on all 6 of them.
Yeah.
And this is where, with the 2 of you, it doesn't get to be 6 horses that have that same little hiccup. There's a collaboration that prevents that from happening. And
my guess would be that gives the horse the best opportunity to become the successful.
Yes.
Like if it was one rider and it's like, hey, it's not a match. Like what you're saying is like, well, maybe there's a match between your dad or Amanda or whatever that is, right? That's giving that horse a great opportunity to become the horse it was bred to be.
yeah, it's the fresh approach, and I think we all enjoy. We don't enjoy it at the time. I think Amanda's right. You get to hear it whether you wanted to or not, don't you? So, but it's what you do with that when you hear it.
Yeah.
I don't think any of this is to be taken personally.
No,
like
can't.
if I say to you, "Gee, I'd like to see that horse approach this a little better." Well, that doesn't mean you've done a crap job. You've gotten up to this level here.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we're trying to polish this thing and make it really shiny. Yeah. So that's great, because if I look at this, we won't delve into the 24/7 marriage about how compatible. But as long as the arena situation is good, eh? You want to go there, Dave? Yeah, let's.
Opportunity for some therapy. Is there anything that we can help you with here today? I mean, I can't help you ride a horse, but I got some ideas,
There's good days. And there's good days and there's bad days.
That's it. There are days. If it's like my house, there are days when it's a lot quieter in the house than other days.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we do pretty good. I mean, we all have our days, and it's tough.
What does the day look like?
Ego does get in the way sometimes, but we can put that aside, and it's what Ron said, like realizing it is better for the horse and the customers and all of that. Like what is gonna, it maybe hurts at the moment, but what is best for all of us, and what's gonna help me or what's gonna help that horse. As like when we were getting Major Durango ready at the futurity, I had Amanda get on him because he was a little lit up, and I was a little, my nerves, I was a little lit up, and she just rode him quiet, loped him around, walked him, got him quiet, and then I got on, and she mentally did that to me.
I was going to say,
the side, she got
first
me
she's like,
mentally to
we're going to
settle
start with
down.
you, Tyrell.
Yeah.
We're going to try to calm you down.
Yeah.
and then it helped, and it translated to being okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I think like in that moment, I have not a horse guy, Ron, but I've certainly been stressed enough times in my life where you need that outside set of eyes that goes, hey, you're hot right now.
Yeah.
And you need to take a breath and relax or whatever that is, right? So you see in there and you're like, you're not yourself, right? Here's a Snickers bar.
Even with the training, that's a good point. Even with the training, like sometimes you need somebody to say, you
get
just
stuck and then
go sit over there and relax a minute or something.
That's so truthful. That's so truthful. At our house, I have one of those voices, and
good.
what she says is, and she came into the marriage with this that she had learned in her profession. She said, "Don't try to tell an angry man, don't be angry." And I, you got to control your emotions.
Yeah.
And if you can, and sometimes it's just a 3-minute timeout.
Yeah, sometimes.
It's just a 3-minute timeout. Like why don't you just ride over there, park in the middle, and think about what you were trying to do. Yeah. Think about, and you back the bus up and reconvene the party. And do you find it's a growth experience? I think training horses is that a fair thing to say?
It's been very humbling.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a growth experience.
Yeah.
Like we've changed in our programs and everything we do with horses has changed. I would like to think it's changed from the time I started till now. I think it's changed a lot. Maybe little things or subtle things, but.
Is that experience, and then you're just like, hey, I tried that, that's not working, so I'm gonna get creative and try something new? Or is that something like you're picking up, like, obviously incredible reining family? Are you calling Dean or Dwayne and asking them and say, hey, do you have ideas? Like, where do you get the new approaches that you're trying to evolve with? Tough question, right?
Yeah, well,
that's a good question.
It's a bit of all of it. Yeah, it is all of what you said. When we go down to the futurity, we try to ride with those guys or get some ideas or get help. And in the past, we've rode with them just to get help. We got Wayne we can ask. My dad, we put our heads together and we all say, well, I saw this one time or this happened back when. And, you know, experience, I've had people say to me, experience is expensive. So you might as well get it from people that have been there, done that, or seen it. And, you know, maybe you don't do it the same, but get something from them that will help your program or help you, whether it's mentally or the physical training part of it. And yeah, we bounce ideas off of each other. Now we're lucky that we can go online and look up somebody that we like maybe and see something, you know, that's kind of,
that's incredible, isn't it?
You know,
I got a question, Ron.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of segueing in, but it's going to lead into another question. But I'm thinking back what Ron said about Luann saying that she didn't necessarily want you at 18 years old to go down this path. But, you know, her concerns, I don't know if she specifically shared with either of you what they were. But if you knew how hard it would be to get from that, say, 18 to where you are right now today, were you prepared for how hard that was going to be? And I mean, same question for you, Tyrell. Like it's hard, right? But do you think, like, if you were to go back, would you say, yeah, no problem, I'd do it again? I would just like to know. Or what was part of that journey like for you?
I would do it again in a heartbeat. I didn't really want to go to school. I didn't really want a real job, and so
I think your mom wanted you to have a backup.
Yeah, our
thinking.
parents always wanted us to have a backup or something, which is very common.
Yeah.
But
so
decided not to do that.
So it's hard, but you would have done it anyway. I'm thinking of like the young Rainers who are listening to the podcast right now who are thinking like, hey, I want to tell my mom and dad that I want to be a trainer.
Watch me go. You know, watch me go.
You know, and you'd be like, go for it, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Depends on the person, I think. You have to be probably fairly hard-headed and sure of what you want.
I wouldn't discourage anybody, but I mean, if you're used to a certain lifestyle, a certain way of being, certain amount of money, certain whatever, a certain like hours, things of that nature, a schedule, you know, it's maybe not.
Reconsider.
Test it out and see if you like it.
Do it part-time.
I'm not saying you have to be the hardiest person. You just have to be driven and want to. It's like my parents trained horses, so it's a little different for me. I kind of knew what could happen, what were the deals. You know, my parents said, like, just because we train horses, you don't have to train horses. But if it's what you want to do, you know, put your head down, go at it. You know what's going to be involved.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I'm still looking for that backup plan.
It might come along. Those are excellent cautions because, but you both of you touched on the same thing that stood out to me. You got to have the passion. You got to have the drive. The drive has to be in you.
Yeah.
And if you want success, you'll live with all the other the hardships.
Yeah.
The things like, well, gee, I used to finish up Friday at 3.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And come back Monday at 9.
Yeah.
And I used to have quite a bit more disposable money. But you if you've got the drive and the passion, and if it fuels your fire, you'll stay at it, I think.
Yeah. I think, you know, not to sound negative, there's a lot of great things about it. There's a lot of positives, but everybody sees, like, I'm not going to call it the rock star part, but the guy's winning and the great part, and like, oh, that guy's making money and doing all this. That's just like a very small,
isn't that
very small piece.
Such a recurring
that's not the rest
story.
of it, you know. And I'm sure everybody says that does these things, but you know.
No, but it leads me back to our conversation with Casey last week, where like she just won nearly $500,000 at the Futurity. I'm like, that's like 2 or 3 million Canadian, I think now, Ron. I'm not really sure.
Things
are changing. The new presidents and stuff, or new old president. But I'm not sure.
I think it escaped the tariff, but yeah.
But what I would say though is, like, you know, talking to her, because now this is kind of 6 weeks in, and I'm like, how's it changed your life or whatever? And she's basically, nothing's changed because the job requires 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, or whatever it is. The job is the same if you're going to be successful and train these horses the way that they deserve to be trained. And that's what I'm hearing from you guys as well.
Well, yeah.
But I caught something wrong because he needs a backup plan. Like, are you hearing the radio voice that Tyrell's come? Like, this is an incredible voice, Tyrell. Yeah. You went from trainer to announcer. Like, hey, I don't know. Podcaster knows
pronunciate
it?
names so well. So I might be in trouble.
Oh,
You have to learn big words.
That's learnable.
That's learn. Okay,
That's
well,
learnable. That's teachable.
And to do it well, you got to make fun of people and be okay with it.
Yeah. Well, he's got a hard enough skin. I mean, he's training for the public. He's got the protective hide.
Well, hey, I want to segue into like some of the resiliency required to do the job. And Amanda, it wasn't that long ago when you had a bit of an accident and you had a very serious injury. So for the people who don't know, do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened there?
Well, back in 2016, we were moving some hay, and I was at the top of the hay trailer, went to move a bale, and the string broke, and I fell off backwards and broke my left hand, all the metatarsals in it, and my C2 in my neck. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And so we saw you come out of that. I mean, you had the head
halo, yeah.
halo
The
that
halo,
I remember you wearing and that. Just to be able to come back from that and get back on your horse. But it really didn't take you that long, did it?
No, right. Only a couple weeks after I got the halo off, which I had on for about 3 months. Then I was on a horse right after that.
Wow. I mean, not something you plan for.
It's-
We're to do a business plan. We're gonna
it's-
in 2016. You're gonna break your neck in a very important hand.
And your left hand, and
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair too, the hardships, as you just alluded to, about your decision to be a horse trainer. How did your health care plan work for you? You know, and your disability insurance.
I had some very crappy disability insurance,
Yes.
but I mean, I
She
got
did
a
have
little
this-
bit
She-
of money,
oh,
but not
good.
She's
much.
smarter than some of the rest.
It
Yes,
wasn't
all
very
right.
good.
Well, for those of you listening at home, if Amanda had been a member of Alberta Equine
Yes.
Federation, she would have been. No, I don't know if she would have been fully covered. But
She could have topped up her Sarah program. You did have some, but
I
it.
did.
Yeah, well, good for
Yeah.
you. That's that takes us. Yeah, that's because that was a serious accident, and I mean it was sobering for everyone.
it's got to scare
like
you.
all the people, like not just you, but everyone who trained horses and was part of that kind of lifestyle. I think we all scratched our head.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well, I mean, that fracture she had is literally called a hangman's fracture. So
No
scary
kidding.
enough in itself.
Yes.
That's
I was just lucky I didn't look up. I got up and I was
Yeah.
swearing, of course, because I was mad.
Yeah, as one
And
does.
I just looked side to side and I knew. And then I just sat there.
she's lucky
Well,
she didn't.
we weren't too far from the Pincher Creek Hospital, so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then I went to Lethbridge and then to Calgary.
Yeah. Well, and you just like, I mean, for the people who I saw being there at that time at the classic shows and the other shows and seeing you there, just the support that comes with, because I think like, like people realize like the bigger extended family of horse trainers, reiners, whatever that is, we were all rooting for you. So it was incredible, but I'm guessing at that time, like we talked earlier about that teamwork that you guys had, I'm guessing all of a sudden in that moment, that was helpful.
Well, we were still at separate deals at that time.
Okay.
We weren't
Yeah.
working at the same place.
Yeah.
I mean, I did go over and
yeah,
ride some of the
ride some.
horses, not
Yep.
all of them, but luckily they had another assistant. Wayne and Amanda had another assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
That
was
was
riding still quite a bit at the time.
And Wayne, yeah. So
Yeah.
it worked out. We all made it work. You know, everybody tried to pitch in and
Yeah.
tried to make it as
Worked out for my 3-year-olds that year. I still got on and showed them and
yeah.
did quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still worked out.
So I guess it kind of, if there was a little bit of a silver lining, it happened during an okay time. You had sufficient time on your 3-year-olds. You had some good fill-in help,
Yeah.
and then you were able to come back for the culmination.
Yeah.
And did Wayne ride a little bit more that year than planned because of that? Do I
Yeah,
recall that
for
being
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like that. I remembered that being a thing, but yeah. Well, Ron, it cannot go unsaid that first off, I love hearing about how great the ground is in Claire's home at the exhibition, but I tell as many people as I can and try to make it public information. But looking across the table, like Tyrell, Amanda, Kim, Wayne, you guys came and you tested the ground and you saved us and you helped us have the great ground that people have come to love. So
First year, that was
Yeah.
totally instrumental to the success.
Yeah.
I remember you and I talked, Dave, and I said, you got to have a practice run.
Yep.
You know, like we hadn't had major rainings at Claire's home in eons, to be fair. And
I think Jesse was a part of that conversation with you too, where the two of you were like, "Hey, have you tested the ground yet?"
Right,
And you're like, "Dave,
right.
are you got a plan to test the ground?"
I'd been
No.
talking to Dave about. I said, we got to have a little warm up here.
Yeah.
And then Jesse called me and he said, "Has anybody gone and done anything there?" And I said, "We're working it. We're doing it." And when you guys came and the whole crew, you made that ground right, and the success of the show was there. Everyone went, "Oh, wow! This is a new place to rain. It's a new place that you can confidently go to and unload your horses and go to a contest."
So my recollection of that time, because we're going back, we're heading into year 4 here now, right? So it was a while ago, but you had just recently done some Kaiser training, Tyrell. Am I correct on that?
Well, it wasn't recently, but actually it was Amanda and I.
Okay.
We went, what was that seminar? We went to a seminar in Red Deer. It was like,
Whatever, I don't know.
it was
what
in
it's called.
an Alberta equestrian kind of put on deal.
Okay, yeah.
And it was supposed to be one of the members of the Kaiser family was supposed to come up. It ended up he couldn't make it, but another guy that worked with them through their company, all that, showed up. And he kept it really simple. He had a whiteboard and he just kind of drew what needed to happen and how ground needed to be and how to separate it. And he got us thinking the ground in the South, like in the southern states versus here it's a different system.
Yeah.
But he explained that, and got us all thinking about that and how things needed to separate and, of course, how their machine worked. But my family had purchased a Kaiser drag, and we didn't really know what we were doing when we initially got it. So then we went on YouTube and watched their YouTube video, and, of course, they made that pretty easy. So through trial and error and trying to make our own ground right and something we'd like, we figured it out. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We figured it out through that. So and Amanda and I, we had a good time at that seminar, and it just made sense, and I finally kind of understood what we were talking about. I think a lot of people talk about ground, but I'm not sure they actually understand what they're talking about with the ground. And I still miss a few points, but
I think that's very fair. That's a very good comment, and more of us have to be more open and accepting of the fact that maybe there's gaps in our programs.
Yeah.
Like what we found acceptable is not.
Yeah.
Maybe for the benefit of the horses.
Yeah.
But I think like that's just such an experience that I've had talking about ground, because I don't know, I'm a nerd, and I want it to be good ground, and so I ask questions, I watch YouTube videos, whatever it is. And as you talk to different professionals across different disciplines, but you're always going to get different answers. The fact that you guys helped us to create ground for our show that literally across the board I haven't talked to anyone who didn't love the ground. And that to me, that makes me feel really happy that because then it's fair ground and everyone, so thank you so much for that. And I look forward to, as we make the transition now to Calgary Stampede Park, we're going into a new arena, and they're invested in that, that conversation with Kaiser. They've got all the state of the art equipment, but again, you got to tune that equipment up correctly. So
understanding your equipment is a big part of it too.
And understanding what the material you're working.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And that's the big key, because there's a very large, excellent, beautiful facility in Alberta that had Kaiser install their ground, and they did not consider the material.
Yeah, well, if you don't know what you're working with,
No.
even for me, like Claire's home stuff, it's good, but it was a little different.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to figure out, like, how do I adjust the equipment, and what do I know about this dirt? Not much. I got to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
And it's got to work for everybody.
But even then, your equipment gets wear and tear. That's going to change how it's performing. Like, there's so much to it.
Yeah.
And then, from that first day when people are showing up to open ride or start those paid warm-ups to like now working through Sunday. And Mike, my brother-in-law, who, when he's available is driving the drag for us and stuff, like the conversations that he has with Kim and with you guys, and just making sure just like those tweaks are in place. And it's just not easy, but it's so important.
Yeah.
And so, again, like, thank you guys. I know I try to say thank you a lot, but it really, it's set us up for success.
Leads me to a question.
Yep.
So I'll ask you this question. You've got a Kaiser at home, you've got a Kaiser drag, you've got your own arena. When you're working your ground and preparing your ground and your horses to go show somewhere, do you try to get your ground a little tougher or a little more, not more difficult. You want consistency through the material. You want a consistent base. You want it everywhere in that arena the same. But do you try to make your ground a little bit harder or a little tougher? Those horses have to commit to the stop. And then so that when you go to a contest and maybe the ground's a little fast, those horses will still be okay. Whereas if you do it my point is, if you do it the other way around, if I come to your arena and I look at your ground and I watch you guys ride around and you've got like really slick ground, really nice ground, PMR, fast ground. A lot of those show facilities aren't that fast. No. Those horses, your show horses, you unload, you make that test drive, and it pulls on them, and they're going to go, ooh.
Too hard, yeah.
A little too hard. This
Yeah.
is harder than I'm used to.
Yeah.
It's not that they won't, but that's a tougher transition than if you go to less material, faster ground. So that's, I was just curious if you had given that thought or look at that.
Yeah, no, we give that a lot of thought.
Yep.
We kind of mess with that a little bit. Like our ground, I'm going to call it, it's older, wore out sand, so it's more of a dirt
heavy
material, and
Yep.
it's fairly heavy anyway.
Yep.
But I'll mess with that, and it also, because, we ride younger horses and the older show horses, so we try to change it up, and I don't want to change it up too much before a show, but typically I want my horses to know they can stop in some of the toughest dirt, and I'll figure out how to loosen them up in the front end if it's lighter than I expected. Like,
Yep.
say we go to the show and it's different.
Yep.
Amanda and I'll adjust training a little bit for that, but also with the drag, sometimes if I think it's going to be slicker, I'll let the arena dry out a little bit so the ground gets a little lighter, a little faster, just so the horses learn a different balance point and to break over and get comfortable with that. But typically I try to keep it a little tougher. Younger horses, I want to make it a little easier. And I know that's not going to happen in a day. Like, people are wondering, well, how do you do that? It doesn't happen in a day. It might be in a week or 5 days or something like that. But typically we keep it. We keep it pretty even, but we try to change it up every now and then.
Thank you. That's it.
That's my answer. Yeah.
No, to me, that's an answer that makes sense. Yeah. And that I've heard different stories. Different people will load up, go someplace. Vegas has notoriously like lightning fast ground. Yeah. So then I get sat at my computer. I got it on the big screen. I'm watching some of one of my local heroes go and have a run in Vegas, and the horse runs down and goes like -half to 0 stop.
Right.
And you go, oh, that's weird. Yeah. Source. Well, find out that in the pre-work, in their practice run, they ran down a little too hard, horse overbalanced, and now he's going, oh no, you just scared him. And it's a young horse, and it scared the horse. And so then the story is, it's 3 days later before the horse is ready to
get comfortable again
and do it. So intriguing, eh?
Yeah, no, and it's something like, as a trainer, you can say, well, I'm going to do my ground and I'm going to do it this way, but you got to be thinking about the training, and you're not going to be in the perfect situation. Like, sometimes we'll ride all day on our ground, and then I'll stop a horse. And what that does is the ground's not perfect. It's packed a little bit. Horse probably will miss or might miss a stop, but it challenges them mentally and gets them thinking, I may have to learn how to gauge ground. And I can't make that situation perfect every time, but try to change it up.
Like the man said, Mr. Wayne Latimer, he says, they got to learn to push on the ground.
Yeah.
Got to learn to push on the ground.
Ron, I'm just realizing as I'm sitting here at the table, there was a very unusual thing happened. Was it the second exhibition? I don't think it was the first exhibition. It might have. I'm thinking it was year 2. That I don't know, Tyrell, if you want to do just a description of the missing hat. It wasn't stolen. No, it was stolen because there were only 2 people who kind of had you lost your backpack. Do you want to, for the listeners, to just describe your backpack? we had some things. There was a little leprechaun or something at the show, and so your hat, a beautiful hat, which you can tell us about because it was a gorgeous hat in your bag. Somebody help themselves.
You go ahead, Ron. You talk.
Well, I won't tell him much. There was few things in it. It's like personal possessions. There's few things that you really are hooked up to, and within a month or two, you're like, I'm past that.
Yeah.
During that first month, you open your bag, your new bag, and you go, oh yeah, I don't have that in here anymore. I don't have one of those. But my auxiliary glasses were in the pack. Yeah. Oh yeah. Prescription, graduated lenses. I mean, this guy, whoever got him, I hope he's not wearing them. He'll look like Mr. Magoo from the old days. But that was kind of, so I had, like I say, few things. I have a reminder every once in a while when I put my ear pods on. Yeah. It's Ron's ear pods 2. Ron's ear pods 1 went that way. Oh, yeah. But when I heard about that, my backpack definitely dropped on the list when I heard about your hat.
What was that hat?
So, well, it's a hat I had. I don't know how long had I had that hat. A while, it was not name dropping, but it was a Shorty's cowboy hat. So we had spent some money to get it, and
with your name in it,
and it had my name etched in it and everything. Like it was my hat, literally. It had my name in it, right? Yeah. So, I can take some of the blame, I guess. It was in the tack stall. It was in the hat can, and I had set the hat can up on, we had some wire gear, and I set it up on top. I didn't think anybody could see it, but looking at it later, somebody could see it. Yeah. I had shut the tack room door, and we had curtains up, but if somebody got to looking, it wasn't. I didn't lock it. I was in a hurry. We were going to do something. I can't even remember now, but I got there the next day, and I thought my hat can, the horse must have moved it, or because of the tack stall's right next to the horse's stall. And I thought, that's weird. I don't remember leaving it like that. And one of the clips is open. So I walk in there and I open it thinking, that's weird. I usually don't do that. It's a pretty pricey hat. I don't make that mistake. And my hat's not in there. And
your shirt.
Oh yes, and I had hung up a show shirt on a hanger for the next day, for the next morning.
They took the hat out of the can and they didn't like the can?
I don't know. They didn't take the hat can. I would have taken the hat can if you're going to do all of it, I think.
The hat can is quite bright.
It's quite bright. Okay. You would notice his hat can. Like, it's got some stuff on it.
Maybe just put it on his head.
Right, that makes sense, yeah.
More of the shirt,
tested it out. Like, this fits. I guess I'm Tyrell now.
Yeah, and then the shirt, I just set it out for showing the next day, and I was like, well, I wasn't even really as mad about the shirt. Yeah. It was the hat. The hat of course got me upset. The shirt, I was like, whatever.
Hats are pretty personal deal.
Yeah.
Hats are pretty personal deals. Yeah. And particularly, like you said, there's a story behind it. Yeah. Pretty good quality hat.
Yeah, I thought so. And it was for me anyway.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way about a couple of my hats.
Yeah.
But, you've got this, it's a multi-X hat here, and I'm going to buy one of these every 10 years.
Yeah, well, yeah. And
pretty much, yeah.
I mean, we take them back and we get them reshaped, we get them cleaned because we don't want to be,
well, they're of good enough quality that they'll withstand that.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this podcast and you have a hat with Tyrell Smith inside, it's not your hat. I don't know if that person would have kept that hat, but I would. Nothing would make me happier to one day get you your hat back. And I would say, like, hey, if somebody's out there, I know you're not asking. You're not mad. You were, obviously you were upset. I remember. And I mean, that was before the X Open, I think. And then you didn't get to wear a beautiful black hat, if I'm not mistaken. So we should add that information. It was, it's great.
It's like a charcoal gunmetal type gray hat. I did wear a black hat because that was my
had my backup hat.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it hasn't happened again. I don't know. That was such a bizarre thing that happened.
That was. Well, and Dean's potato chips.
The ketchup.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Same deal, right? Did you hear about Dean's okay, Dean Latimer, right? Yeah. Dean Latimer, fanatic about ketchup-flavored potato chips.
But they need to be Old Dutch. They need to be
Old Dutch ketchup-flavored potato chips. So they're shopping. They go to some. Didn't you? I think Losey had to drive them to the store, and he gets this, survival pack kit, like as much as you can cross the border with.
Yeah.
And he puts them near the show off. It's like just
Yep.
sets them. I mean, who steals potato chips? And particularly, Dean, ketchup flavored ones. Yeah. But anyway, they went missing too.
Yeah.
They went missing.
Little sidebar.
Yeah.
Because you brought up the ketchup chips. I don't know if Dean knows this, but we ever get him back up here. My friend Scott McNeil, Scotty
Yes.
Mack, who comes to the shows and sometimes helps out and stuff. So some people are a little bit familiar with Scotty, but his wife, and now he helps her out. They do product samples and then they get feedback. So they'll gather so maybe it's Old Dutch, they'll hire them. And so it was about a year or so ago, they hired me. I got to go sample ketchup chips and give my feedback. They're like, try this one. What do you like about it? Is it crunchy? Is it salty? I'm just curious if we were to do this with Dean.
All right.
Do you think he could have picked out the Old Dutch ketchup from that?
I don't know. I think he'd have flown.
It's a challenge.
I think he'd have flown here to try.
Yeah. Yeah. I was surprised to know I think there was like 6 different types of ketchup chips, and I was like, I thought there was only one, but I guess now you're throwing this at me. So
Oh,
what does this
crazy.
have to do with horses?
Yeah.
And not to stop your podcast, but I wasn't the only one that lost my hat at that show.
Okay.
So there's Ron's backpack, and I guess
Yeah.
now the ketchup chips.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my hat.
Yeah.
There's a gal in the aisle over in your aisle. Same kind of thing. Her hat can. I think they still had the hat can, and she went to the show ring
Yeah.
and opened it up,
Opened it up.
and there was no
No hat
hat
in it.
in there. So I think there's 2 hats. It wasn't
Yeah.
just mine.
This was a double hat fiasco. Yeah.
I don't know.
Nice.
There's a lot of traffic through
Pretty
that
well-dressed
grounds.
thief out there and well-fed. Yeah, enough for
s-
the snacks.
I'm so naive though, and like I don't know. Does this type of thing happen? I mean, not specifically hats, but do you have to be aware at shows of your tax call and your gear
Yes.
of things going missing?
Spurs have gone missing, shaps.
I mean, we always try to
Leave 'em
lock
at
our
the-
stuff
Ta-
up, but you like to think everybody's.
Tack rooms are tough, tell you.
Yeah.
Haul-in shows are even tougher. Haul-in
Right.
shows, while you're in showing, you tack your horses up at the trailer or something like that. You're in showing, you're busy. There's somebody out there shopping.
Yeah.
And you'll get lots of reports. People will come in and say, hey, give everybody a heads up to lock their tack room door in the trailer. We've had a rash of thefts up here. Because, I mean, everything from saddles, bridles, all the gear. And, I mean, we joke about it now. Sometimes, you're at a haul-in practice work or something like that. And we joke a little bit about it, and you go, that's a pretty nice bridle. You got any more of those in your trailer? that kind of stuff. But it's everybody's conscious of it, and but those are it's not commonplace, but it's not uncommon.
It's expensive stuff. Like
It's-
the
it's-
tack and
it's
the
very
chaps,
expensive.
all that stuff is.
I couldn't afford to have bought the stuff I've got retail.
No.
Oh, I don't know what made me say that.
I'm going sideways now, but whatever. It's a podcast, it's storytelling. Like back in 2009, 2010, when we started coming to shows, and we had no idea what we were doing and stuff, So we would pull in the morning, we'd set up all of our gear on, and then at the end of the day, like we'd pack it back up, put it in the truck, go home, sleep at the hotel for 20 minutes because that's all you had by the time you had packed up all the gear. Go back the next morning, do it again. And after doing this for a couple of shows or whatever, I was like, I've already been robbed of my time and stuff. And so then I was like, I figured out ways to like wrap cables and lock it and stuff. You'll still find a lot of our plastic tables have holes drilled into them. And that was a part of
locking it
the
down.
lock system.
Yeah.
And again, I was like, this is so silly. Now at the end of the weekend, and you want to go home because it's been a long raining show or whatever it is. And where's the key to the lock? I don't know. And again, so I just started bringing the black tablecloths. They're my cloaking clocks. And they're like these security blankets. You just put them over top. We never lost anything.
No,
To
you
the best of my knowledge, Ron.
Can't lift those blankets
Never.
off. Well, it's the same. Sound equipment's the same, Dave. Like I work at lots of different places, and some of them have a security thing, and they'll hand you the wireless mic, and they'll say, if you're going to use this, just make sure, at the end of the day, you do this or that with it. because they'll lose them. I mean, you know, a couple $100, $300 gone, and plus the inconvenience. But no, there's different things like that.
Yeah.
Just
We didn't tell you guys we were going to ask you this, and I don't know how deep we want to get, but like, have you guys got a plan? Have you thought about what does the next few years look like? Maybe long-term picture. Like, what does that look like for you guys as far as the training program and horses coming through down the pipeline?
yeah, the pipeline.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Just hoping to continue on and hopefully go to some more shows in the South and bring
Yeah.
along get some better horses and all the time. And
Yeah, I think we've talked about it. We're just looking to get. We've got great customers, but we're just
Yeah.
looking to get some better stock to help.
stock is just getting so much better down in the South. It's
And,
hard to compete.
we've been talking about it. We may have to do some of that ourselves. Like
Yeah.
Amanda has been good about buying. Like every year, she kind of buys one, sells one, upgrades type
Yeah.
thing. You know, shows it. Just we got good customers, but not always are they going to bring you what you need or is competitive enough. And it's two avenues for us. One, we have a saleable product, hopefully, in the end, that we can make money that way. And then, get another horse. And we have full control over who shows it,
There's a lot
what
to
happens
say.
with it, and all those kinds of things. Again, reiterating, I got good customers,
yeah.
but that's.
I think that's a pretty good plan. We're hearing more of that
Yeah.
common. That's a good strategy to be looking at. Is looking after yourself to some degree, stepping out. And yes, there's risk, but you've got, as you said, 100% control over this circumstance, and so you can decide where it's shown. You can decide its training routes and different things like that. It just sometimes if your ship doesn't come in, you got to swim out to it.
Yeah, a little bit, and that's mostly our plan. Maybe we've been talking, I don't know how the market will stay. Horses are quite valuable right now, and I always like the horse selling side of it, like not necessarily for reiners. Maybe there's a lot of these other types of sales that if they're reining broke, but they do other things, you can rope off of them. We're talking about maybe that's something to do with our own horses, just to make a little extra money and look at expanding our deal a little bit into some other avenues.
Those are good thoughts.
It's all talk, but-
I'm hearing. Well, I'm hearing a lot of, some of the meteoric rising things that are going on. Is the ranch horse market, if you will, but the AQHA ranch riding.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting a lot of very good press, and a lot of people are getting involved in it, and it's a excellent crossover for reiners. Because of the horses that make nice transitions, horses that move well, good movers, those kinds of things. And but you really do the price of horses is. I like the way Tyrell put it. He says, "I like the selling part." Well, I'm with you, Tyrell. I like the selling part too. I'll tell you what really sucks. The buying part.
It's getting worse.
Another point.
It-
yeah.
Can't steal them anymore.
It is. It's a lot tougher and a lot more competitive market to try to pinhook a good yearling or
Yeah.
So then isn't the
two-year-old.
making part, like, you're having control of a breeding plan is going to be essential? Is that?
Okay, if you we'll ask these guys.
Yeah.
Breeding program, would you consider, do you have a mare? Or if you had a mare, would you consider going into the breeding business?
If you get a really good mare, we haven't really come across anything yet that we've had or kept for a good brood mare. But until you have a really good brood mare that really makes it worth it,
Yeah.
it's better to just buy a prospect. It's expensive to raise them,
Yeah.
But in this
and you
market,
never know what you're going to get.
it changes that
Yeah.
that a little bit. Like if you do have that good brood mare,
You have a good brood
you know,
mare.
It-
Yeah.
you got the cow and the milk, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're getting both, right?
Yeah.
You're producing something, and then if you're a trainer, you can train it yourself. That's probably the best bet. Other times, I agree with Amanda. Buy the prospect.
Yeah.
But right now, with the prospects being so high, it would be nice to have that. But then
find that right brood
to
mare.
find that brood mare now and pay for it.
Oh,
That's where
Well,
that's the tough part right now.
they are. they're strongly priced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for the same mare.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's looking for the same mare, the proven brood mare.
Yeah.
And she's either proven herself one way or the other. If she's just got a lot of lifetime earnings, you're still sitting on the fence on her because you don't know whether she's going to raise babies like that.
No.
But if she's a proven producer,
Yeah.
if she's produced some money earners, there's a lineup to try to buy her.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know enough, Ron. So maybe, you can talk to me. You put me onto that solo select idea and
Yep.
things that are happening there. Because like what I'm seeing there is that they have some of those top mares that are a part of their program that you can now, through the recip mares that they have, they have recip mares. Now you could go to that. They've only got so many. Is there a lot of that happening? Is that a way to then control what you're getting?
I gotta be honest, I don't know enough about that. I've been hearing more about it.
Because I feel like one of their mares, if you're going to recip with one of their mares, I feel like the bill, and don't quote me on this, but go to their website. I want to talk about them more because Melanie Smith, who
Yep.
created Solo Select, blows my mind at what she's accomplished as a young professional. But when you go to their website, I feel like the price tag is about $20,000 US, and now you're gonna use their recip program to.
I think that might be entry level from what I've seen in embryo trading.
Yeah.
That would be entry level, Dave.
Yeah. So yeah, like I
So,
said, don't quote me on it.
yeah.
We'll check it out.
I think you're going to find that
I'm going to do it right now.
the-
Forgive me.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just go see what's happening there.
the entry level on embryos, you buy the recip mare or you rent the recip mare.
Yeah.
You return her if you return her at the end of the weaning period and she's still intact. There's this deal, that deal, but the whole fact is, it's a pricey deal.
Yes.
Because it's driven us down. I guess the big thing was we'd like to buy a 2-year-old, right? We'd like to look at a 2-year-old that's riding around,
Yeah.
and you can go, oh, that looks all right. It's only got 30 days on it, but I can see this. This appeals to me.
Yeah, you can see how it's built. You can see how
Right,
it's
right. And you
mind
go,
and physical part of it.
and then you go, well, I need something less expensive. So now you're looking at the yearling,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Which is harder to
Yeah, it's hard.
to
More
visualize
risk.
the future. Yeah.
More risk.
Weanlings are a big
Or
thing.
weanling.
And you're priced out of the yearling market. Now you're
Yeah, exactly.
now you're at the weaner.
Yeah.
Well, now it's embryos.
Yeah. So full disclosure, like I'm talking about
Yeah.
Solo Select. We have no current affiliation with Solo Select at all. So this is something that's new to me. I have to be honest, Ron.
Yeah.
I would love to get connected with it because, as I said, they're doing some cool things. So I'm on their website. You click on mares and it says create your future with Select Genes, being the Solo Select Genes, a revolutionary platform that gives breeders the opportunity to have world-class maternal genetics integrated into their program. And so as you scrub down on there, looks like there's a $6,000 ICSI economical approach, but as you come down, like it's just this: select your mare, and so they have their different mares. Select your stallion, right? Then figure out the contract, you pay it, and then so as it comes down here, like ARC Ruby Play Gunya, $20,000, Char's Gun, $25,000, and you can just go through dressing up, 17.5 first fever.
These are designer
Yeah.
foals.
Yeah, it'll depend on the stud fee and
Yep.
everything, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that not the mare part of the price or what's like this? These
Well,
are the mares.
What I'm going to assume is if I followed your look at it,
Yeah.
I called it a designer because you design it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
pick the mare family,
Yeah.
and then you pick the stallion, and then
Yeah.
they inseminate such up, and they do the ICSI or they do an ET, an embryo transfer, whatever. But I think, Amanda, you've got it. It'll depend on, I bet there's different levels
Yeah.
of mare power.
I'm sure. I just feel like this program changes the game, and that's kind of where.
I don't think they're not the only players on this.
I would assume not, but it's
Not the only players. I think what a lot of breeding ranches are doing, in the reining I'm not as familiar as I am in the cow horse and the cutters, but a Tamarack ranch, Toyon ranch, I mean, that's what they're doing. How many mares they breed a year, it could be 100. It could be 200. But they have multiple options. and you can buy embryos.
Yeah, you don't have to own your broodmare.
I think it's a great thing.
Yes.
I think it's really good. And I think it applies to more people. Maybe you can allow more
Yeah.
people to play in the game.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking any of those things. I think they're great. I do think there's always incurred cost.
Of course. Yeah.
It's like building a truck.
Sure.
This is the base model.
Yeah, that's the cheapest part right there.
That's the cheapest part is that 20 grand, and then when you add the rest,
That's right.
there
Yeah.
you go. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just
No, but when you look at the sport that you guys play in and horsepower just being so essential, that the playing field generally isn't level. But that's the way that it is. And so when turns out, that's what my dad told me. Yeah. He said they did a study of dogs. As it turns out.
But I mean, that Dave, you're right. It's an option and
Yeah.
quite a viable option,
Yeah.
and quite an innovative option.
Oh, yeah.
So to lots of people, I think it comes down to your risk tolerance. It's just
Yes.
like as you two are sitting there and you asked them about their looking future, you guys have got some good ideas and you've got done some forward thinking. Really, what you're trying to do now, without going up to the shooter bar, is getting your courage up to write the check. Like if you want the prospect that you really want, you're going, am I really quite ready to commit to that risk? So,
Yeah, for us, we'd like to kind of just. It's been a gradual build. Like,
yeah,
sell a pretty good one, try to get something a little better. From there, hopefully you do a little better, get a little, whatever. Try to. Yeah, it can take a while, but hopefully just.
well,
go
if
on,
it's
onward
any
and upward.
consolation, that's how businesses are built.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's how any business outside. That's where we always get in trouble. We're stuck here in the horse business.
Yeah.
There's real businesses out there that operate on great
They
principles.
use that model for years.
They've used that model for years. Yes, isn't that true? No, it is.
But
It's-
we had Steve Ross come on, and that's
Yeah.
a guy who has learned through the ropes of like how to run a successful business. And I feel like I heard him telling somebody, and I can't remember where, but he's like, you got to own your own horses. And so like if I look at Jesse Beckley last year, like those three, did he have 2 or 3 down at the Futurity? And I like, was he the owner of all of them? I feel like that's what he said, wasn't it? At least 2 of them.
He's got Mizzen Wisden has been like an ATM.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
A broodmare like that. Is
That's
what
a
we
good-
need.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
yeah.
That's what
there's the broodmare
Yeah.
of broodmares. There's a great example.
Yeah.
And so that mare has been an ATM. She's a producer. Everyone in the industry is familiar with the mare
Yeah.
and her offspring.
Yeah.
So it's a license to print. It's just like, so we've got a base, we're back to your base price pickup.
Yeah.
So everybody's got the base price model. And out of a mare like that, it's
Gonna start higher.
going to start higher.
Yeah.
And then we start putting leather seats on it, 2-tone.
Yeah.
And we put a little chrome on that booger.
Yeah.
And maybe cruise.
That's
Maybe adaptive cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And
Autopilot.
or co-pilot. But yeah. But that's I think that those are the kind of things that create.
Yeah.
That's a license right there.
But you brought it up, Ron. I don't know if it was on camera in a previous episode. I feel like it was off camera. We talk all the time, but just like the game is changing in Canada, especially with the obviously the market that's down in the U.S. with the Canadian dollar being as weak as it is. Like, I don't know what the next 5 years look like for us here in Canada, but like the work that we do at the exhibition, we want to be a part of that solution because we care about you guys. We know we want the professionals to have an opportunity to be successful. That's through creating horse shows or whatever it is. But, I don't know, like we have some responsibilities in Canada to maybe look at things a little differently over these next couple 5 years, whatever it is.
The most hopeful thing that I could suggest is that with the breeding programs, say like the exhibitions stallion incentive program, like that. So we've just gone through a period where a lot of the shopping was done in the U.S. Bigger store, bigger brand names. So a lot of the prospect horses were purchased out of the U.S. and then distributed around, sprinkled around through Canada. So now we're going to have a little less sprinkling, I'm thinking. considerably less because it costs a lot more to buy that U.S. prospect.
It does for sure.
Yeah, you throw on that extra
You-
30.
You do the monetary exchange. Not only not only are the entry level prices way up, but then we've got the dollar exchange. So that being said, maybe the customer is going to start looking. The client is going to start looking more at the domestic breeding programs.
Mm-hmm.
So some really positive things are going to come out of that. Some of those mares' produce is going to get trained. Whereas they might not have gotten trained before.
Interesting.
You know what?
Yeah.
Like, so this mare bred to a mare who doesn't have much of a record is bred to a relatively well-known stallion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the market for that offspring is moderate, right? It's moderate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's my belief that maybe it's rising. That offspring's marketability is picking up. So maybe somebody's going to take a chance and ride it, train it, and go, you know what? This is a pretty nice horse. Not world class. Maybe I'm not going to take it to the futurity, but I think it's a small futurity horse. Yeah, I can win some money on this horse. It's a step.
Oh no, we might boost our own Canadian market. We get a little bit
Yes.
stuck, and I'm not saying some people will still buy across the line. I'm sure they will find deals or can afford it, whatever. But what you're saying, I think it'll boost our own Canadian market.
Yes.
And I think what Dave's saying by trying to have these shows and helping us out. Some people don't like to talk about this, but when there's money up, it creates that. Okay, so now we got people training the Canadian horses, so that helps the trainers. Now the trainers are competing for more money. People are looking at that thinking, I want to put horses in training, or I want to send them to Dave's shows, or they're in these programs. And I think just,
Yes.
because we're in a little bit of a struggle, it's going
That's
to
the
create
deal.
the business to get a little bigger.
I
And I hope it does. I really think that's what we've been missing up here is we just need
agree with that.
just to boost our
So I
for everybody.
ask you this
Or-
question, that thought that I've had.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of people in the cow horse industry. What about, so you've got a wide open futurity or a wide open derby, open to the world.
Mm-hmm.
What if you had a Canadian bred and owned division, recognition division in there that paid a little bit?
That'd be good.
That'd be nice. I mean, it's a great
You
idea.
know, I'm saying don't change the overall structure of the main event.
Right.
But what about recognizing somebody who's riding I'm thinking of promoting our own domestic breeders.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's interesting to hear you talk, Ron, because I know, Ron, we've had these conversations like so many times, right? And one of the things you've said to me many times is get a better horse and ride it better, or you want to win, but I think like I disagree, and I feel like you're coming towards my side, where it's like for the health of the industry, there needs to be an opportunity to put earnings on our Canadian horses, or to give all levels of our Canadian riders a fair crack at a purse that they can win in, so that the owners of that horses aren't just always shelling out the money for that horse in training, that they're getting something back. And I've been racking my brain like ever since we started this to go like, what is the secret sauce? I don't know how many people know this, because I was on the NRHA site the other day. I was going to say like, okay, what are the eligibility based on last year's earnings, and how are we going to run our shows, and where are we going to put our money? Did you know that Europe, Oceania, Mexico, they have their own custom leveling for their open age classes? Did you know that?
I did know that. I knew Brazil does.
Yeah, Brazil is another one, right? So I'm looking at those numbers. I plugged in the Mexico numbers based on earnings. We would come very close to having a legitimate 4 levels of an aged class, where our top riders are there in 4, and then our next batch is in 3, and our next batch is in 2, and our next batch is in 1. And I would love to be able to do that, because to me, that's what the leveling system was created for. And I feel like as a show now, if we can bring in $25,000, but distribute it across the 4 levels, or if we get to our goal in 28 of 100,000, how we can share that.
Age-old question. If you make 4 levels and you've got X amount of soup, money in a pot, and you make 4 levels, everybody gets enough to get home.
Right. That's
What about just starting out with any level, any horse, if it's Canadian?
That's probably where to start to get
Where
people
you
wanting
start,
to go into
more
it,
people
yeah.
wanting to go, and more people, and paying them a substantial amount, like 5,000, not 500.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
$5,000, not $500 to win. Then, as your program grows, you add levels.
Yeah.
If you want to add your own level, then I got no problem with it. But if you start out leveling everyone, our situation, to me, has always been one of demographics. We do not have high enough numbers to drive all the systems. That's what we don't have.
Yeah.
We don't have high enough numbers, population.
Yeah, I think the level system is a great thing. I think it's awesome. It does level the playing. It's just a little tricky, like with the numbers thing you're talking about.
Yes.
So many of us are close in the, like, when you have 1, 2, 3, and 4, there's going to be a select few that are just like 2 or 3 that are going to be level 4s, and then the rest are going to fit in 1, 2, and 3. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So maybe until you can grow those numbers and get the outside influence or some more people coming in or whatever, what Ron said, maybe try for the. I really don't know what the best answer is, but try for the big show, get everybody coming, then maybe in a year even just separate it.
I've Julie's been helping me, and like we've got a spreadsheet of our professionals across Western Canada. I've looked at it, and like we have in Canada that come to our shows, we have 0 riders that are level 4. Next year we have 3 riders, it might be 4, who level out at 3.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
so and then there's like 2 more that are 2, and everybody else is level 1. Why? Because it's based on your ranking in the top 200 from last year.
Yeah.
In that level 1, you can kick out. That's where it applies to you, Amanda. Your lifetime earnings are too high, so you're in that top 200, so you get kicked out of 1 there. But I'm looking at those, and I'm just going like, these numbers they're inflated by the high added money shows that are happening now across the U.S. So for our Canadian dollar shows, even if you do great, you're not gonna level out. So we truly in Canada we have one level, because like I said, you've got that very small group of professionals who don't fit in one, but everybody else does. And I just want to share that money. I want to distribute that purse more. And part of it is for the riders, because I want you to have an opportunity to earn. But to me, I'm more thinking about the people who are funding the industry, and that's the owners of those horses. Because like last year, we tried to make some changes, and I've had a few trainers call me, and they're just like, hey, the owners are looking at the way you've done the show package, and you're making it unaffordable for them to come to your show, which is never my intention. It's like, I'm actually trying to create the opposite here. But I'm just thinking about those things. And so when I've seen, I just like your point, Ron, because if we are doing something that's exclusively Canadian as far as the breeding side of things, that I think it fits in with a goal of health of the industry, so that it works.
That's all. That was just a random thought of something that would help.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a booster chair for the Canadian breeder.
I
That would be great.
I think we're actually all saying the same thing, just
Yes.
different approach to getting to
Sure.
it.
It is.
Is what it is, really. It's the same idea.
And the whole thing is, we've just got to come up with the best approach. And I'm not saying I got the best approach, but from your statistical evaluation, to me, that's 2 levels.
Sure, but
That's 2 levels, Dave. It's these people and these.
I do like the idea of splitting it up more for the owner side of it. That is a very good point. I did not consider that.
But if you look at a typical show
consider that.
package, if they're offering a level 4 and a level 1,
Right.
you're going to see that of the added money, like 80%,
Yeah.
90%, whatever's in that level 4. And so in that level 1, which I'm telling you based on my math, is you got 10% of the added money going to 90% of your
horses.
professionals
Yeah.
and 90% of your owners. That doesn't make sense to me, Ron. That's not
Right.
a healthy.
But-
So we're going to change that this year.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point.
But
I
that
didn't
is
look at it that way.
that is it dictated how you split the money?
No, the level 4 has to have more, but what you're going to see at our shows this year, our level 1's going to have
Prorated.
pretty darn close to the level 4.
Prorated,
Yeah.
that's typically what's done between open and non-pro in the cow horse and the cutters. They prorate the money. So there's $100,000 up, and there's 45 entries in the non-pro and 55 in the open. That $100,000, that's the way it's split. $45,000 goes to the non-pro classes, $55,000 goes to the open.
Yeah.
So you could prorate it by level.
Yeah.
So if you've got, if the bulk of your people are level ones, they're going to pull the biggest part of that pot down, and they can only pull it down till level 4 has to its minimum.
But Ron, you've been a part of this conversation for such a long time, and I think your participation in what I'm about to say is essential for Amanda and Tyrell, because they got a lot of years left, hopefully, in this industry, a successful, healthy, thriving reining industry. The economics of it right now is changed because everything costs more money. The gas, the hay, everything costs more money, everything related to it. Our dollar is crap, and so then I think we really need to start to get creative. I think as professionals, we need to have a conversation. I hope to open one really soon with it and just say like, hey, what can we be doing to ensure that we don't go the way of the dodo? And your comment about thinking about a roping horse or whatever it is, like, I'm starting to understand, because we dove in briefly into the roping world last year with a couple of live streams, is that industry right now is incredibly healthy. And then again, I'm going back to the solo select, but I listened to a podcast and they were just talking about now they're starting to breed horses where this is a header horse or and this is me talking like I have no clue what I'm talking about, but that changed, right? So that prospect you were talking about, these are all important.
It's going to change. When new industries start up, and I'm just saying this is historically. So the head-heel deal, the team roping fraternities, really a big deal, getting lots of press, getting a lot of activity, a lot of people are playing. Now they're going to start to breed for that. Yeah. Well, the genetics of horse breeding is notoriously slow and hard to identify. And it's just as simple as why is a stallion usually 17 or 18 years old before anybody thinks he's any damn good? Yeah. Do you know why? You ever figured it out? Well, a stallion's probably 7 years old before he stands to a full book of mares. He goes all the way through his age events. So fraternity, derby years, 4, 5, 6. 7 years old, he starts to stand to a mare. He might have test bred a few mares. But now he's 7 years old and he breeds a mare. And he breeds a few good mares. Maybe he's lucky he gets a few good mares. Chances are he gets some test mares. Yeah. People haul him over their B-string mares. Yeah. He's 7, breeds them. Now he's 8, they foal. Now he's 8, the foal's on the ground. Foal's 1. Now it's 2. Now it's 3. Yeah. He's 11.
Yeah, and he still hasn't got good mares.
And he hasn't gotten the good mares yet. Yeah. He has, but if he's lucky and he's really prepotent, now the 3-year-olds start to look pretty shiny. And they're looking back at that 11-year-old stallion going, wow, he might be the real deal. He might be a breeding horse. Let's take him a better mare. But he doesn't get the good mares till he's pretty old. So that's just they can do some amazing things with semen now, and people are starting to, they're starting to flush 3-year-old mares that are showing good. So, that dynamic is going to change, but that's traditionally how those horses got so old. Mm-hmm. So back to the head heel, well, trying to breed for those attributes is a tougher deal.
And I think what some of those guys are forgetting is what was working and why it worked out is those horses were already pretty broke in either the cow horse or in the reining.
Yes.
And they're trying to, I realize that we bred to get where we are, in the reining and in the cow horse and all that. But that's quarter horses. That's just breeding typical quarter horses got there, right? Now we're separating them a little bit. I think these guys are trying to reinvent the wheel. But what they really liked was cow horses and reining horses go into their programs.
Yep.
Now they're going to try to figure out our system and do it. I'm not picking on them. Great ropers are great ropers, but they're not training the horses the same. I don't think they're not. It was some of our discards, so to speak. Not that they were bad horses, and that's what I'm speaking to.
They were horses that needed another job, and they found.
I'm going to try to be more diverse, and if I have a horse that's not working, I'll barrel horse or a rope horse, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're still great horses. Just maybe they might hate reining. I don't know. They might hate cow horse, whatever, but they're really good in that. And, I think a lot of this breeding stuff is great and changing of stuff, but sometimes trying to complicate it a little too much.
Oh, I'm good at that.
I mean the industry.
Oh, he is. No, he is. Oh, you can't go past that.
I can admit that.
No.
I have wacky ideas. But, typically I'll shoot way too far, and then I'll realize, like, okay, let's come back.
You know
here.
what?
This was the
If
right
somebody doesn't, Dave,
yeah.
we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
That's
right. You gotta,
some of our own worst problems not problems in the industry, but it inhibits the industry because we don't start thinking.
wow, we always say this is the way we always did it.
Exactly.
And that's a little what I
Exactly.
said.
Why?
It's not completely right, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
trainers were working good.
Well,
I
I have a lot of trouble because I keep looking historically, and I keep going. Well, we tried that once.
Right.
Yeah, but holy shit, that was in 1968. Let's move on here.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll work today.
Yeah.
But
I think we have to explore new ideas because we're all guilty.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the Western lifestyle problem, and nothing against that. It's just we're always, well, this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something better though.
Sometimes.
And I think we get a little stuck sometimes. But also somebody has to be brave enough to try it, or willing to, or has the means to, or whatever.
Yeah.
And not all of us are. We get a little in our safe zone, I guess.
yes, we do.
Yeah.
I like staying in my comfort zone.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
it's pretty scary out there.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
Has it been fun talking to these
Oh,
youngins here?
like, I was just thinking. I haven't had this much fun since I was in my right mind. I know. This has been good. I will say this: I think we should almost put a wrap on this because I'm getting full. But I'll say this, you guys, this was a pleasure. This was an afternoon that I consider really well spent, and some great ideas. And I am so optimistic now about the sport of reining in Alberta and Western Canada, knowing that there's folks like you involved. So I really am. I just, I told you before, when I started, I had to rewind some old film footage, and I can still, confession, see both of you in the youth reining. I still got some of that film footage stuck in here, but I've updated it, and it looks good. So keep doing what you're doing, keep thinking, and good luck in the future.
Well, thank you.
From this side.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
We'll see you guys just down the road. Equinox is just around the corner. So,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in. And, we appreciate all the listeners who joined us on the podcast. Listen to us going ramble on here. Hey, Ron?
We went a couple of places. With some dangerous rabbit holes, but we got back.
Well, there's people on their drive time. They love this here. So,
All
thank
right.
you again, everyone, for tuning in.
Adios.